what's on the open market. I mean, that's kind of the dream in some sense is, what am I on the open market?
And you just said behoove too.
Yeah.
Dayton on Facebook, or Dayton on Facebook, will we see Duke Johnson and Carlos Hyde as the running back duo this year? You'll certainly see Duke Johnson back.
Mm-hmm.
Texans loved what Duke did.
Yep.
Running the ball, catching the ball. I joke with him. I joke whenever I see him. I say, you're a power back. Because he smacked that dude in the jaw in London, and then he made some rough blocks, and he could kind of get some yardage. So I think you're going to see more of Duke Johnson next year. Wouldn't stun me to see Carlos Hyde come back. I know the Texans liked what he did in 2019. Wouldn't stun me to see him draft a guy, sign another guy in free agency. We'll see. But at least one part of that equation is coming back in Duke Johnson.
Well, I think for Carlos, after having a tremendous year, the one thing he was asked this a couple times during the year, and I thought his answer was great. He's like, I fit in this offense. I fit very, very well.
Yeah.
And he does. He's a really good fit. And that's something that both the team and the player, Carlos, have to consider as it pertains to re-signing and coming back and all that. Because as Carlos looks around the league, is he going to see that kind of fit with other teams?
Right.
Now, maybe over the last year, maybe people are going to look at him going, oh, okay, he's not just a journeyman like we just, becomes a second or third back.
You can do some things with him,
No, you can do some things with Carlos, and maybe that is upped his market value as well. I'd love to be able to bring Carlos back. The reality is that for a running back, the draft is unbelievably deep. Mm-hmm. It is incredibly deep. You got backs kind of all size, makes and models, like cars. You got some little Fiats like Clyde Edwards-Helaire, but it's a Fiat that can do a lot of different things, all the way up to your F-150s like A.J. Dillon from out of Boston College, and you got kind of all of them in between.
Big boy.
And Carlos, to me, is kind of he's like a big Ford Explorer.
Mm-hmm.
It can move, but it's big. And are you going to find guys like that in this draft?
It's got space for your coolers in the backseat, your luggage.
And just when you need to rely on it, that's where you go. So right. I really liked the mix of Carlos Hyde and Duke Johnson. But again, going back to the financial aspect of it, if I'm Carlos, first of all, I'm coming off a great year.
Yeah.
Secondly, I'm 29, I think. And we all know about running backs getting to the age of 30.
Father Time has not been kind to running backs.
Yeah, absolutely. And so at that point, you try and get every single dollar you got because the league will perceive you as being done. Once, if Carlos, for some reason, whatever happens next year, he doesn't have as good a year, he's not as productive, well, then teams are going to be able to say, no, he's now going to hit 30 and he's dropping down. Okay, so for Carlos, get every dime you can.
Sure. Raymond on Facebook, is another pass rusher a priority in the free agency or in the draft? Yes, absolutely. I think the Texans are going to add some help to the pass rush, and I think it could come in both sectors, free agency and the draft. You want to add to the mix. J.J. Watt's coming back, and you want to add some stuff there outside of him to Whitney Merciless, to Jacob Martin, to Duke Ejiofor, who's coming back from injury, to Charles Omenihu, who showed some nice things last year. I do think you're certainly going to see at least an addition in one of those forms, and probably in both.
I thought about this, and I've been thinking about this for the last few months. When did we play Kansas City? A couple months ago.
Mid-January, yep.
Yeah, I've been thinking about it since then.
2 months ago.
The guy that didn't play against us either time due to a calf injury, I think both times, it was Chris Jones. And Chris Jones the program says he's a defensive end, but basically the guy can move up and down the line of scrimmage and he can pass rush from basically anywhere. Mm-hmm. And he's a phenomenal player. And I started thinking about what a unicorn he is and how much of a valuable piece he is, because you don't find guys like that can rush from the interior the way he does. You got Chris Jones, you got Aaron Donald, JJ can do it, can go inside and be kind of a game wrecker from the inside. There are not many guys that can do that. And if you can find a guy like that, man, you hang on to that guy. I think Charles can grow into a guy like that. And I've watched, a few games, and that's kind of the player we'd like Charles to be. This draft, which is interesting, is this draft has a few guys that I think could end up being that way. I've heard people talk, the defensive tackle draft is not that good. It's not that good. This class is very good. After Derek Brown and Javon Kinlaw, you've got a group of about 4 or 5 guys that I think are very, very good, very athletic. Neville Gallimore from Oklahoma. Jordan Elliott from Westside High School went to Missouri, Texas, then Missouri. Justin Matabike from Texas A&M. Russ Blacklock from TCU. You've got some dudes that can rush from the inside. I think that's where you really could kind of improve things to go along with Charles. Now, you always can bump JJ inside with Charles because you've got then Jacob Martin on the outside. You got Whitney Merciless on the outside.
Speedier front when you do that. Yeah.
But I always go back to the story after the Texans after the Chiefs in 2013 drafted Dee Ford. I texted Chris Ballard, who was with the Chiefs at that time, was kind of running the draft. I said, you guys have Tom Ali and Justin Houston, and why did you go get Dee Ford? He's like, you cannot have enough pass rushers in this draft. And they found a way to use all three of them before Dee Ford ended up going off to the San Francisco 49ers. But to me, that's kind of the way you need to look at this. You can't have enough pass rushers.
Just layer them on, yeah.
If you're going to beat Kansas City, you need pass rushers. And that's really got to be the goal. If you're going to win the AFC, you got to go beat Kansas City. So you need pass rushers. You need athletic dudes. Yeah, you got to beat Baltimore, so you're going to have to scheme up and do some things to stop Lamar. But you need dudes that can rush the pass rate from inside and outside.
You also need a really good quarterback, and you got one in Deshaun Watson. And Edwin on YouTube wants to know, when will Deshaun Watson get a contract extension? Bill O'Brien was asked this at the Combine. He's been asked this a few other times right after the season ended. They want to sign Deshaun Watson. They want to sign Laramie Tunsil. They said sooner rather than later. So, they want to get it done probably this offseason. Don't know if they will, though. Takes two to tango. Does Deshaun Watson want to wait and see what the CBA holds? Yeah, Does he want to see what Patrick Mahomes gets? Does he want the market to get reset, or does he want to say, I'm going to take this money that is there in front of me? We'll see. You got to wait and see. But the Texans want to get a deal done with Watson and with Tunsil.
For some free agents, that kind of waiting game can be sort of stressful. Like, where am I going to go? What am I going to do? How much am I going to get? What's the market out there for me? For Deshaun, it's not really stressful per se. Yeah. It's just a matter of finding the right thing that fits. So the thing is, he can go to the he can go to his favorite clothing store and find what it is. Like, I'm going to keep looking. He doesn't have to do it right now. He doesn't even really have to do it next offseason if he doesn't want to. I think the Texans would want to get it. They're going to exercise the fifth-year option. So I don't think that's a fait accompli. But I think they'd like to get a deal done. And yes,
they'd exercise the option if they.
Yeah, they would. I think they would do it this coming fall, I think. Right. Don't quote me on that. But it's going to happen. There's not that much stress. It's just a matter of when the deal is right to say, okay. And I do think that the new CBA is sort of hanging out there going, let's see what this is going to happen. Because all indications are if the new CBA goes through, that cap's going to go up significantly over the next few years, new TV deals, all that kind of stuff. So, you play the waiting game and just kind of wait it out and see. Don't leave any money on the table, but we'll see. I think you're right. I think all those things play a role for both Laramie and for Deshaun, but I think something will eventually get done, and I think everybody will be happy with it.
Chris on YouTube is going to wrap things up for us. Chris wants to know, what cornerbacks will the Texans pursue? Give me two in the draft,
okay,
and then let's talk about a couple in free agency. I think he's probably talking about free agency, but let's cover all the bases.
Well, I think from the draft perspective, I think, picking at 57 and kind of moving in that direction, the guys that I have in the Harris 100, they're kind of in the 40s. And I start thinking about, 40s and the 57. Well, just the way the draft, kind of fits, you might end up finding guys. I find a few guys would fit. I love Jeff Gladney from TCU. I love him. Great ball skills, tremendous feet. Still has a little bit of technique work to do, but I love him. A little shorter than I expected. He came in at 5'10 and a quarter, so a little worried about that. But, man, the way he moves his feet, young, tough, great ball skills. Love him. Cameron Danzler, 6'2", 176, 180.
Mississippi State.
A little light out of Mississippi State, but of all the corners that I saw going against Jamar Chase is LSU receiver, is just an absolute dude. Danzler was the one that really just got up in his face and just challenged him and, like I don't say took him out of the game, but really made life tough for him. So Cameron Danzler's another guy. Trevon Diggs from Alabama. Those three guys in the draft. I think from a free agent standpoint, we thought that A.J. Boye would be a free agent that maybe the Texans would go after because they know A.J., but the Broncos stepped in front, made that deal. Chris Harris Jr. is one that's often mentioned, and I just feel like he's going to be really, really expensive, and for good reason. The guy's a phenomenal player. He plays inside, he plays outside. I just think he's going to be really, really expensive to go get because they're going to be suitors for Chris Harris Jr. So the other guy that I would look at now, he might be as expensive, maybe even a shade more expensive than Chris Harris Jr. is James Bradbury from out of Carolina, from the Carolina Panthers. Now, I would think the Redskins, and I've heard the Redskins are interested because Ron Rivera obviously is now with Washington. There's a connection there, and I don't think that Carolina is going to franchise. By the way, I think Carolina is just going to blow the whole thing up.
Well, they made the trade the other day.
Right. They may or I mean, and when I say blow it up, I mean everybody. And I mean everybody. I heard that from multiple people at the Senior Bowl. I think I've said that before. They could blow up everything. We're starting from scratch. So I don't think Bradbury's going back. I don't think they'll franchise him. I think they'll just move on from him. So Bradbury, I think, is going to be out on the market. And he's a long, physical. I think he's a shade more athletic than Josh Norman was when Norman was with the Carolina Panthers. He's long. He's physical. I think he can run. I thought he had a really good game against us, which always helps. If you think about some of the free agents that we've signed over the years, those free agents having games against us where we could see it live. I mean, that kind of just adds to it. So I think James Bradbury from Carolina might be expensive, but if you are looking at your priorities, thinking edge rusher, inside rusher, cornerback, I think you can find any one of those three through free agency, or maybe two of the three through free agency, and all of a sudden you can attack it in the draft. And now here you go with a defense that's going to get back up in the top 10, hopefully, in the league.
All right, you're top 5.
Thank you.
Just all around, man.
Thank you.
And all of you watching, y'all are top 3, top 2 or 3.
You're top 2.
Thanks, man.
Top 2.
I'll put you're in the top 2. Then.
Okay, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Tyler Marcotte, he's behind the scenes doing all this stuff. So is Amanda Caffey. They're just making this happen. Even Mitchell Moreland is adding some rice to the gumbo.
There you go.
Yeah. Have a great weekend, and we will see you again soon. This has been an RTIC Cooler Talk. So long.